We're coming into the end of the year when so many organizations send out their annual appeals looking for money, we're always looking for money. Organizations are always looking for money. They need that to survive. And so how do you decide who to give to, who's a reputable charity, who's deserving of your funds? Well, that's a great question. And unfortunately, a lot of people make some bad choices. So stay tuned today because my guest is going to talk about what are the best ways to go about to figure out who deserves your hard-earned money at the end of the year. Stay tuned. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Scan FYI. So as I said, it's coming into that giving time of the year. And so my guest today is Vivian.loy of PNC Bank. And Vivian, thanks for being with me today.
Thank you for having me, Andrea.
So you are in a most unique position to talk about the giving time of the year. But before we get into that, why don't you just tell everyone a little bit about who you are, what do you do at PNC?
Happy to. My name is Vivian.loy. I am a senior wealth strategist at PNC's private bank. What I do is I actually do financial planning for our clients. I've been at the firm for over 6.5 years, but I've been doing financial planning for over 25 years. And I really enjoy helping clients. So this is, to me, a really great way of giving back to not just myself, but to our clients.
All right. So speaking of giving back, great segue. This is the time of year when so many organizations are looking for donors.
Yes.
And so obviously you can just go out there and write a check to any organization you want to, or we can be a little more thoughtful about who we want to give our money to. So can you, Vivian, talk a little bit about some of the different options that people might consider when making a donation?
Sure. There's different ways of giving. So the first and easiest way is to give cash, writing a check to a charity. So it's easy enough. You write the check to the charity, you send it off.
Done.
And done, right? You can give different types of assets, stocks, bonds, artwork, things of value. You could also give to a charity as well. However, with that being said, you need to get a valuation. You need to make sure that the charity will accept it, etc. So if there's something you have that is worth something, your family doesn't want it, certainly donating it to a charity is another way of giving it. Charitable annuity is another great way of giving. So what you would do is you would give assets to a charity. They would look at your life expectancy, to look at the type of asset, and then in turn, they will give you an annuity for your life, and then you would get a partial tax deduction for that.
So that's kind of a win-win for everybody there.
It's a win-win for everybody. So I love the charitable annuity. I think that works for everybody.
So let me just remind everyone out there who's listening today is, of course, you might have a lot more questions. We can't take such a deep dive into this morning, but I will make Vivian's information available to everyone on Facebook and YouTube, so you can always reach out to her. I think it's interesting that you just said about donating artwork or objects of value that maybe your family had. But, I think like a lot of people, you might think it's very valuable, but good point. You really need to have it appraised. Sure. And then finding out if, in fact, the organization even would want it.
Exactly. So I think that's so key. And, I'll be honest, it's not for everybody. But you may just have that piece, it could be a rug. So maybe you might want to donate that to a museum, or you might have some artwork that's been handed down, to the family. It's worth something, and maybe you might want to give it to a museum. So a museum could be a great place to donate things rather than Goodwill. One other thing I forgot to mention, I wanted to go back a little bit about giving, is you can get part of your required minimum distributions from your IRA
Mhm.
to charity, you can give up to $100,000 of your RMD to a qualified charity. So what happens then is, let's just say your RMD is $50,000. You give $10,000 to the qualified charity. You're only going to be taxed on the $40,000 that you receive, and the other $10,000 you don't pay any taxes on. So if you don't need the money, and that's another avenue for you to give your money to, especially this time of year, if you're looking at taking your RMD and maybe you don't want or need all of that, distribution.
So am I understanding that, if someone is in a situation where they really do have plenty of money and they're fortunate enough to be able to make a big contribution to an organization, either the organization is going to get it or the IRS is going to get it.
Exactly.
So personally, I'd rather see the organization get the money. So that's a key thing to always remember, right?
Exactly. The government allows us to, and they're very generous with the tax provisions to giving to charity. So that's why you're seeing, part of your adjusted gross income, right? You could give a lot of cash, that's why they allow you to give stocks, bonds, and artwork. And they're very liberal with that because they want us to give back to society. So they're giving us tax benefits to do that.
So maybe someone out there has a hidden Picasso. You might want to check into that. But first, make sure it's real before you donate it to a thing.
That's right. That's why a good appraiser will help you out with that.
Could have an ugly surprise there. So now let's talk about what do we, when we give to charity, we're giving to, we want to be giving to a qualified charity, a real charity. So what does that exactly mean, Vivian?
So a qualified charity has gone through the process and filled out a form to let the IRS know, right, that they want to get a tax-exempt organization. So they will receive something called a 501c3 designation. So if you have that designation, then you are deemed a tax-exempt organization. So when you give money, so churches, for example, we said museums, a lot of these, animal rescues and such, they always say at the end of their name, they're a qualified 501c3. Right. And that is what you're looking for when you're giving money to a charity. One way to find out if they really are qualified is the IRS has a website that you could go on to, and you just type in Google IRS qualified charity, and you'll see that website pop up. You type in the name of the charity, and if nothing shows up, they are not a qualified charity. One thing that I want to point out is organizations like GoFundMe are not a qualified charity. So we see this all the time, like I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram sometimes, and I see people say, I just rescued this animal and I need funds, and can you go to my GoFundMe page and donate? Which is great, right? I mean, we all feel bad. We want to make sure that
it's good to help other humans.
It's good to help other humans. I mean, that's, we like to give back. As humans, we like to give back. But the issue with the GoFundMe, it's not a qualified charity. You're really not sure where that money is going to. There have been a lot of scams in the last couple of years that, been in the news of people donating to GoFundMe for a seemingly good cause. And the people who actually set up the GoFundMe took the money. So I'm very cautious when people say, well, it's a GoFundMe, it seems to be a good cause. I go, don't do that. Do yourself a favor, go to a qualified charity. The IRS has deemed them, they looked at it, they had to file tax returns, right? So go down that path and you can't go wrong. Just make sure you have receipts, that, when you give money to them, that you get a receipt back from them. So you can actually. All right.
Well, good advice on that, because it's one thing to contribute to a GoFundMe for someone that you actually know, but an entirely different thing for a stranger when there are a lot of bad scams out there. So we have to be careful.
Exactly. This time of year, there's a lot of scams.
Yeah. And just to let, as a little reminder, so Scan, who, you know that I'm the communications director for SCAN. We are a 501c3. So
Wonderful.
we are. So hint, hint, if anyone is looking for something to do with some excess funding, feel free to send it to SCAN. We're always looking. But let me just, but is a nonprofit always a 501c3?
For the most part, for the most part. I mean, it's rare to see a not-for-profit not be a 501c3 or a tax-exempt organization.
But
you
it means
have to
that
file that with the IRS.
Right. It means you took the trouble to make some, to get that designation. But
Correct.
You know what? There's a website you mentioned to me earlier, Vivian, Charity Navigator.
So one of the things, we think about when we give money to charity is, well, how much of my dollar is actually going to the cause? And you have absolutely no way of knowing, right? So I give to say, for example, an animal rescue. How much do I know of my dollar is actually going to the animals, to helping them, vet care or whatever? And how much of that is going to marketing?
Or salaries or something like that.
Or salaries, exactly, right? So Charity Navigator, I think it's charitynavigator.org, is one of those websites that actually looks at looks at not-for-profit organizations and looks at their financials, looks at how much is going to marketing, how much is going to the cause, and they give them a rating. So I think that's a great way. Another way to make sure that your money, right, is going to the right cause, that out of $1, 20 cents isn't going to the cause, and the other like 70% is going towards somebody's salary. So you'll see, if an organization has 5 stars, they're fabulous. They're doing everything right. If an organization has 1 star, then it's questionable. Still a 501c3, and maybe, you really feel strongly about it, you can still give, but it makes the organization accountable. It makes them accountable to the person that's making the donation, and it's making themselves accountable to the cause.
So donating to a good cause is a wonderful thing, but you want to make a good decision so that your money is actually going to the cause and not for someone's trip to Aruba.
Correct. If you remember a few years ago, there was a big uproar about wounded warriors. And they were taking these lavish trips, to these like Caribbean islands and such. And they were like, well, how much of that money is actually going toward the wounded warriors? And how much money is actually going toward these lavish trips? How much is it, people getting compensated for, marketing? And because of that, they basically revamped Wounded Warrior. So, they've changed the way they do things. They stop the lavish trips, and a lot more of the money goes to the actual, wounded soldiers. But part of it is the damage has been done. The brand itself.
Yeah.
If you look at it, you go, didn't they have an issue a few years ago? United Way had something many years ago. So again, it will come out. The accountability it has to be there, because you're putting your hard-earned money. This is money that we work for, that we saved up, and we want to give back. But I think it's important that they're accountable to us on what they're doing with our dollars.
Right. So charitynavigator.org. And I will also put that in the comment section too, because I think that would be a very important thing. If I'm going to donate money, I want to make sure that my money is really going to the cause, to the actual people or the animals or whoever they claim to be helping.
Exactly. I think that's so key, because, we want to give back, but, we're also busy. How do you know with this, you get something in the mail. Now this is that time of year, I'm getting a ton of mail, right? So they're all asking for money, but how do I know?
Well, I feel like this is even, let the buyer beware. The onus is on you before you write that check, before you send that money out, to make sure that you're donating to a good cause. And I will just remind everyone, if you're a Seinfeld fan, and Vivian and I talked about this earlier, if you remember George Costanza and the Human Fund, all right, if you don't remember it, Google it. You'll see what we're talking about. You want to make sure you give your money to something that's real.
That's right. That's exactly it. Right. And, you know, a lot of people, you know, you have churches, right? You have your alma maters, your colleges, you know where that money is going to. So that's fine. But it's really these, you know, other organizations, you know, that you just want to be, you know, again, it's not, we're not telling you not to give money, but it's just,
you're being careful. We want to be careful. So it's the giving time of year, and that's why we thought this would be an excellent opportunity for Vivian to tell us a little bit about giving, but giving carefully. So Vivian.Loy from PNC Bank, it's been a pleasure, and thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And thank you for your time.
So remember out there, if it's important to you, it's important to us. I'm Andrea Tarr. We'll see you next time on Scan FYI. Bye, everyone. Bye, Vivian.
Bye-bye.